Okay, in 2 weeks ago, I spoke about the foundation of European economic system. If we imagine a structure of medieval European society, 90% peasant. Therefore, a crucial indicator of function of medieval economy and medieval society, the agriculture. If we would like to judge the peculiarity of European agriculture, very useful using a technology or methodology of comparison. Comparison of agrarian structure, agrarian plants, agrarian activities. If we would like to judge the peculiarity of European economy and European society and European subsistence system, this is the general term, we can compare the three typical civilization maintainer grains, maintainer cereals. Wheat, rice and maize or corn, it depends on the British or American English. There is a border case, this is the potato. Potato may be crucial in the case of American culture, but complementary, complementary plants. Therefore, rest only three cereals. The most important aspect of comparison are labor, needs of the labor, which used for production, agrarian production, yield, the productivity of cereals, and the last one, influence to the soil, to the arable land. How long can you use the same plots, same arable lands for production? Look at the first one, wheat. Basically, wheat and the brothers of the wheat, it's barley and rye, and the closer circle of wheat type cereals are basic staple foods of European culture. But the wheat, more or less, if we calculate whole of the European civilization, more than half of cereal production was in the traditional age. Look at the wheat. If we are looking at labor needs, very, very moderate. A traditional peasant had a lot of free time. If you, for example, read the fairy tales, our impression, the peasant working day by day from dawn to the sunset, it's not true. It's not true. Look at, for example, the calendar of Christian calendar. There are 127 fast, Christian fast. This is the day of unemployment, thematized by Roman Catholic Church. Therefore, 1/3 of year, because we have to calculate with 54 Sunday, it's official free time. Therefore, almost a little bit more than 1/3 of the year, no work, no work. Why? Because look at the somebody, there is agricultural experiences. Okay, it's a greenfield investment. Look at if we are looking the production of wheat necessary make a heavy work only 2 periods. October, sow, plowing, tillage and sowing, October. And the harvest period, and for example, you travel by car or by train on the field, you looking the arable land, the wheat fields, nobody. Rabbits or small animals, nobody, from sowing and tillage, the plowing and until the harvest. Okay, very moderate efforts, enough for wheat production. Medieval and traditional peasant, a lot of free time. Look at the second aspect, yield. Productivity, it's very, very moderate. Why? One seed produces generally 4. It's very limited. Why? Because very, very important to pay in taxes, royal taxes, seigneurial taxes, and the taxes for church, Roman Catholic Church, and save a large part of the production for the following years foresee? However, survive medieval peasant. The key of this problem are common used fields. Common used fields. Because beside arable land, there are common used forests, common used grazing land, common used lake, rivers, and other water-covered area. Common used. And for example, forests are edible, for example, plants, edible fruits, and a lot of, therefore, the buffer zone are common with who common use? With the landlords. Landlords. In the traditional time, Eastern peasants lived much higher living standards compared with the Western. Why? Density of population, eastern part of Europe, much lower. Therefore, the buffer zone, a common used fields, much larger, much larger. Therefore, the moderate productivity a little bit limit the density of population because there is a glass ceiling. For example, if compare density of population in high Middle Ages, the highest density of population, we can identify, I switch on the camera. Okay, because 2 times in my life I missed switch on, and my lecture is floating to the universe and somewhere in the Jupiter. Recently. Okay, turn back. Which was my last sentence? Somebody remember? Nobody. Okay, I try to continue. Okay, buffer zone. I remember the buffer zone. The buffer zone in eastern part much higher the living standards compared to Western because lower density of population. I remember. I interrupt. How we can compare density of population in medieval, high medieval Europe? Highest density of population was Low Country. Low Country is the Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg. This is the Low Country, historical Low Country. In this area, 50 person per square kilometer. 50. But in China, there is a Chinese student. One Chinese, okay. In China, for example, there is 2 capitals. Peking, Beijing, I don't know which is the good spelling because the transcription, you know much better, the transcription of Chinese alphabet, there is, I remember, 19 different versions. Therefore, it's not sure that my pronunciation is correct according to the grammatical system of Chinese linguistics. Anyway, Beijing or Peking, it's a northern capital. And the southern capital, Nanking, on the South Chinese Sea, near to the coastline. And around Nanking is a little bit the same function and position was than recently Shanghai. It's a southern capital. And around the southern capital, in the high Middle Ages, in the Ming dynasty, the heyday of Ming dynasty, it's 400 person per square kilometer. But look at the Tenochtitlan, capital of Aztec Empire, 250. Therefore, compare density of population of Europe, very low, 50, and this is the level of Aztec Empire, Amerindian Empire, and this is the China. Low density of population in international comparison because the productivity of wheat very, very moderate. Look at the last one. 2 following year, not possible, produced on the same plot, same estate wheat. Therefore, necessary to use a 2 or 3 field system. You remember. Change one arable land, other half or other third is a grazing land. Okay, this is the profile, like for example in the criminals, we try to identify a criminals. This is the identifying a profile of European agrarian system. It's very important because 90% of Europeans living on the field and were primary producers. Therefore, if we able describe and identify the peasant society, we can understand the function of European civilization. Look at the second one, a rice culture. There are a lot of different rice culture according to cultivation. There is a dry rice production and wet rice production. Generally used in China, the wet rice production using irrigation system. Very high the productivity. One seed able to produce 30 or 50. And some ideal grazing area, ideal climate area, not only one, but 2 times, and the best area 3 times possible harvest. Therefore, productivity unbelievable high. Moreover, on the base of high productivity of the rice culture, the density of population is unbelievable, increased to the calm period of Chinese dynasty, Manchu and before Ming dynasty period. In consequence, because Chinese agrarian expert solved the problem of saving a fertility of the soil. Somebody know how able to save the fertility? On Chinese arable land, because in Europe not able to save a continuous, on the same arable land, a continuous production of wheat. But the Chinese solved this problem. With sheet of human. And whole concentration, it's not usable in the everyday life, but it's very important information if you would like to go in the Chinese field working. It's very important information that in the wet rice culture, there is a low concentration of human sheet. Not so easy working day by day on the same plots. But it's flowing like a river, low concentration of human sheet, and with help of this system, able to save the productivity. Okay, long time fertility. On the same area, use continuously, century by century, for rice production. But somehow, this is a trend of civilization. Why? Because so successful a rice production that create a monoculture. Beside rice, no alternative possibility. No. Because no rivals of rice production. And if you know, for example, a Chinese cooking, which are the typical meats of Chinese cooking? Chicken? Pork?
Beef.
Duck?
Yeah.
Dogs?
Not
Critical.
really. That's the
Nowadays it's not, but some periods.
Yeah.
Some periods. Okay, anyway, small animals. Because no grazing land. The best form of economic application is rice production. Not by chance, for example, a cavalry of Chinese army recruited that the trader of Chinese empire travel outside of Chinese Great Wall and bought and buy horses from the nomadic people. Because no place grazing land for breeding horses inside of the, this is a tramp, and create a monoculture. It's a little bit simplification. But if, for example, which is the general prejudice about a Chinese people? In your case, it's not true, but it's a prejudice. Prejudice is not necessary, it's true. Which is the prejudice? It's a short people. Why? Because a Chinese and generally Asian population lived, it's simplification, but usable simplification, lived underfeeding. There are 2 versions of underfeeding. It's a quantitative underfeeding, not enough calorie, and a qualitative underfeeding, not enough nutrition, trace element, vitamin, and so on. And which is a reaction of the body for underfeeding. Like, for example, on the fuel crisis, the car became shorter one and shorter one. At least 3 generations, the DNA remember to the shock, to the trauma of for example, hunger and epidemics and so on, so which follower of the crisis situation. Okay, anyway, it's a trend of high productivity. Look at the American Central and Southern American culture, based to mass or corn culture, and 50 days handwork per day. It's a quite moderate, comparable with the work and labor needs of the wheat. Quite a moderate. And the productivity comparable with the rice productivity. And I have a biologist friend, live together in the student hostel. He told to me that in the breeding of mass was the greatest one in the history of plant breeding of the humankind. Why? Because the original, the natural breeding, not natural corn, only there is 2 seeds, no more. And generation by generation increase the size. And the normal piece of mass, it's contain 100 or 50 anyway, 50, 60 pieces of seeds. It was a great innovation. Okay, and the fitness of the mass culture is exhaust like a wheat. This is the profile. Look at the social and economic consequences of this form of civilization maintainer cereals. Sorry. Problem. Somebody take out the device. So, okay, look at the consequences, social consequences basically, social and economic consequences. Look at the wheat-based culture. The first one, 80 to 20 proportion. It's a mean in consequence of low productivity of cereals until the modern time, until the industrial and agrarian revolution at the turn of 18th and 19th century. This was determined 80% of traditional European society should be a primary producer, or simplify a peasant. And only 20% might be, for example, intellectual, nobleman, trader, independent from primary production. It's determined. Some exceptional area, like for example the Netherlands, even in the 15th century reached a 50% of urban population, but was exceptional because organized the import from Baltic area of grain. Okay, it's generally true. The second one, low density of population. As I mentioned, compared with the Tenochtitlan or Nanking, it was a small fraction only, Chinese or American density of population. But very important, in consequence of low density of population in Europe, until now, high sensibility for technical innovation. Look at, for example, the crucial technical innovation of Middle Ages. Gunpowder, for example. Gunpowder. And how the name is magnetic compass. Each of that invented in China. Somebody played in gunpowder? No?
Yes.
Yeah, but during my childhood, for example, in consequence of robbery, we found bullets and take out the bullets. And it's very good, for example, making blowing up on the streets and different part of the village. Yeah, but it's dangerous. The gunpowder is very dangerous. And the first generation of the muskets, the guns, was very dangerous, not even for the target person, but the user one. And in China, because it very easy organized a large cavalry, a large, for example, infantry, without firearms? Not need, not need. Only used for fireworks. It was unbelievable. It's blowing up like us in my village with my fellows. But in Europe, where the density of population very, very low, and the ambitious country, like for example Spain, very poor country, but very ambitious, invented huge money, huge capital for developing muskets, guns. And if you know, for example, a little bit about the night education, knights, cavalry, heavy cavalry, the term of education, one night, 10 years. And education and the training of one soldier, musketeers, 2 months. Save huge money and increase the capacity for poor country, ambitious poor country, capacity of army. In consequence of that, early modern time, the most dangerous man was a Spanish musketeers. And other one, Turkish student, there are in the audience, Janizeli, and the new army, Janizeli, for Hungarian student, Janica. Janizeli used firearms, similarly. The first generation of application of firearms came from the peripheral area, because the peripheral ambitious power would like to increase the capacity. Okay, it's crucial, because when on the time of geographical discoveries we compare China and compare India with Europe, any other indicator, China or India, much better compared with Europe. Only 2 criteria which better European conquistador, using the firearms and the navigation system. No any other, but it's enough for forming a globalization, economic and military globalization of world on the time of geographical discoveries. Okay, balanced nutrition, because in Europe, it's a general exaggeration, prejudice about European on the time of geographical discoveries. It's a large person. Why? Because in Europe, wheat exhausts the area. No any other saving fertility of arable land, only animal husbandry. Therefore, the position of animal husbandry, in consequence of balanced nutrition, saved until the modern time. Okay, other one, there is a productivity between plant farming and animal farming. Carrying capacity of plant farming 5-fold higher compared with animal husbandry. Therefore, on the time of crisis, time by time, try to increase the arable land. But it's not possible. Because after some increase of cultivation, area of cultivation, decrease the productivity. Therefore, the strong position of animal husbandry saved whole of the history of European agriculture. Okay, it's a simplification, but take on to the same brackets rice and the mass culture. Which are the most important social consequences of this profile? The first one, high density of population, as I mentioned in the example of Tenochtitlan and Nanking. Low sensibility for technical innovation. I read a lot of years ago a tale about the Chinese emperor. Knocking on the door of Chinese emperor, one inventor who invented the flying dragon, a flying dragon. And the emperor asked demonstrate how able to flying, this is a fairy tale, but show well imperial profile of the Chinese civilization, not recently, in the past, of course. Inventor of flying dragon demonstrate how able to flying on the sky. And the first mention of the Chinese emperor to the chancellor, if flying down the dragon, burn the dragon and kill the inventor. Why? Because the flying dragon able to left the control of the emperor. Therefore, the first priority of the ruling is a total control. It's a fairy tale. In Europe, a less centralized empire and principalities and the kingdom, no total control. No total control. As I mentioned at the introductory chapter, that one of the most important of economic development of Europe, no empire which able to control whole of the area of Europe. Okay, qualitative starvation, as I mentioned, decrease the size. It's not genetic reason. Look at, for example, how the name record book. Which is the name of record book? The word records contain. Somebody is a little bit late. Guinness record book. In the Guinness record book, the tallest man, Chinese of the world. It's not genetic reason. It's in consequence of historical starvation. Okay, low importance of animal husbandry, as I mentioned before. And, okay, this was the last conclusion of European agrarian revolution. It's some advantage, some disadvantage, but from the profile we derive high sensibility. It's crucial in the European trajectory of European civilization, is a high sensibility for technical innovation. Came from agriculture. It's very interesting. Okay, look at the structure of and the profile of European trade. Basically, for birth of European trade, necessary produce surplus. The birthday, as you remember, I show on the diagram of Fernand Rodin or other one. The birthday of European economic integration is the middle of the 12th century. The European new agriculture was able to produce a surplus. In consequence of surplus, it's started the flowing a surplus and the change and the trade. In the early period appeared three forms of trade. The first one is a local trade. A local trade means bulky everyday goods for short distance. For example, in the case of in the case of Szeged, if you walk not so far from this building, a square marsh. This is the local market. And the close circle of the city, the trader travel every day except Monday, but somebody in Monday is similarly, but generally Monday, this is the free day, but any other day, walking, traveling to Marsh Square and try to sell the everyday, for example, fruits, vegetables, and sausages, and everyday products for the citizen of the city. And very interesting, the story of this square. It's named Mars. This is the god of military operation and military activities in the Roman mythology. But somebody know which was the name on the socialist epoch? Change only one character, Marx. Because it's very interesting, the history of the street. In the socialist epoch, change only one character. Karl Marx, a philosopher of the 19th century, which founded the socialist ideology. And was a square marsh because it was the square of military operation and the training of military teams. And on the socialist epoch, changed to the Karl Marx, and after the political change at the turn of the 18th and the 19th, changed back to Mars. square miles. Okay, local trade, Baki every day was for short distance. And the first generation of cheap jack, you know which is the cheap jack? Cheap jack and huckstry. Huckstry means it's whole of the products, it's bringing on the backpack. Nobody met this kind of the trader. It's very interesting. It's possible. Unfortunately, it's closed, but was a local market in line Cherepesh. It's a little bit far. Somebody visited in? Okay, this was a typical huckstry place, and very interesting. There are a very special group of huckstry trade, generally located in Transylvania, not so far from here. It's Transylvania. It's named Gypsy Gabor. Gabor, this is a first name. It was a very, very interesting mythology of Dan that came from the Hungarian. And he was, for example, artisan of first generation of the Hungarians. But recently, the Gypsy Gabor, it's very short hat, very, very large hat, and very colored clothes of the case of women. If walking on the street, you can identify it very easily. Okay, it's a typical huckstry, It's agent somehow, if we would like to translate in the modern terminology. I bought a lot of devices, electronic and any other devices, from the Gabor Gypsy trader, which I never would like to buy, but there is a great practice, and change the language. Each regional language speaking fluently. For example, Serbian, Hungarian, Romanian, and Slovakian, everything. It's unbelievable, guys, of the Gabors, the Gypsy Gabors. Okay, cheap jet, it's very mobile. Market. A market organized some days, generally Wednesday and the Saturday or Sunday, and the shopkeepers, the first shopkeepers, because necessary, selling day by day, bakers and the butchers. This is the local trade. Local trade, everyday products for short distance. And the second one, long distance trade. Long distance trade. On the time, two typical long distance trade. For example, this is a red one, a Silk Road, the Great Silk Road. It's not mean only silk traveled from China to any other part of the world, a lot of other products, but the typical and the brand-like products was silk. And the other one, this is the black one, it's and the green one, this is the spice trade, a spice trade, pepper, cinnamon, and the typical spice of Spice Island, Indonesia, Ceylon, and any other island. It's very high value. For example, in the case of pepper, was the same than the gold. 1 kilogram pepper was 1 kilogram of gold. Recently, it's very cheap products. If you walk to the shop, it's only 200 forints. I don't know which is the dollar, American dollar, but it's very modern. Some cent, for 50 cents, for example, one baggage of pepper. When history, somebody know why so high price? Yours? No idea?
Well, was it hard to get?
No, because, for example, the cinnamon, much lower, came from the same area, the travel and the transport expense was the same, and the price of production was the same. But pepper is high, and cinnamon much lower.
They were holding on the goods? No, restricting them like the diamonds trade or something?
Psychological reason, which is the fashionable. If 1 year, for example, clothes is fashionable, the people pay much higher price. But in the historical past, the change of fashion much slower. And the high price of pepper started even in the Roman Empire and left very high until the early modern time, 17th century. It's a psychology. For example, in this faculty there is an education of a stylist, you know, which is a stylist education. And on the frame of stylist education, there is a special course, sometimes I participated, a perfume maker. And Zsolyoli. It's in Hungary, only 4 persons graduated in the perfume maker high school of Versailles in Paris. Not Paris, beside Paris. And he told to us, because I'm interested for this topic, so special, that which is the expense of making one general perfume, which on the shop 100 euro, which is the expense of production.
$5.
Change between 1 to 3 euro, 1 to 3. Why? We buy the illusion. I taking a bottle, push. I imagine I am a Brad Pitt, or very close to him. Illusion.
Jack Black.
Illusion. No more illusion. A little bit the same situation in the case of pepper. For long term, everybody agree this is the greatest luxury. And pay on the equal like a god. But when appear, in consequence of geographical discoveries, a new maritime products like tobacco, chocolate, and coffee and tea, the pepper is done, replaced by new products. But on the time, if somebody specialized to the pepper trade, it was 400% benefit per year. Unbelievable, but very dangerous. Because not only the trader specialized for long distance trade, but the criminals too. Therefore, the long distance trader before the travel wrote testimony. No sure survive. Very high profit, but very dangerous. Okay, long distance. This is the second one, if you able to follow. And the last one are interregional trade. The first interregional trade are organized between Baltic area and Low Country and southern part of England. This is the interregional trade. Interregional trade mean bulky everyday goods for long distance. Which were the crucial products? Timber, wooden material, and wheat or rye, anyway the grain. It's a crucial. Why? Because on the Middle Ages, the timber, the wooden material was the same like recently the fossil fuels. If somebody would like to make something, building, vessel, ships, or bridges, necessary use are timber. And the largest forest on the time we can identify on the area of Baltic Sea. Therefore, the position of the Baltic countries was the same like the oil emirates recently on the Arabian Peninsula, controlled the most important raw material of the traditional world. Moreover, in this area tested technology of the trade which applied in global size a European trader. Therefore, this area between Low Country, South England and Baltic area is a playground attesting the technology of the global trade. And after the perfection, it's a development of the technology of the trade in this area applied in global size. Good. How we can allocate goods and products? The first one, a market. You know which is the market. There is a trader and a buyer and somehow agree for the change. But necessary to pay, no free soup. No free soup, necessary to pay somehow for everything. The second one, redistribution. Redistribution. For example, the great empire used redistribution. Which is the devices of redistribution? For example, taxing system, taxes and fee pay into the budget of government, and according to interest of government, interest of empire, redistribute. For example, a Chinese peasant never would like to organize a great army, but the emperor of China, yes, would like it. Therefore, the Chinese peasant pay in the taxes and the fees, and according to interest of empire, redistribute this budget. Okay, sorry. This is the market. You know how function the market. Recently we are living in the frame of European Union, a market-oriented society. And this is the redistribution, very interesting, the rate of redistribution. Somebody visited in a Scandinavian country, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, or Finland, somebody?
Yes.
Okay, you visit. In which is the peculiarity according to taxing system?
So what?
Where is the regional peculiarity of the Scandinavian taxing system?
Peculiarity, you mean?
Very high rate of the taxes. A lot of, for example, player and, for example, football player emigrated to other countries because so high the rate of taxes. It's in Scandinavia. In Scandinavia. A little bit same situation, for example, you know, the Gérard Depardieu emigrated to Russia for financial reason, because in France it's judged too high, and was Gérard Depardieu excellent actor. I like his movie, but emigrated and organized some brotherhood with Vladimirovich. It's other story, but a little bit same situation in the Scandinavian country. Very high rate, but everything is free. Education free, and health service is free. And I was in Norway, which is the richest country recently in the Scandinavian area, and disdain everybody. Sweden is a poor people, is a beggar from the Norway, from the Norwegians. And if somebody finish the secondary school, receive in American dollar is 4,000 American dollar for salary, and for entertainment and relax and recovery. Every student of secondary school, at the end of secondary school, receive 4,000. It's citizen, on the basis of citizenship. No more reason. No depend on the quality of the final test and baccalaureate. It's free, but very high. 80% of rate of taxes. It's very different. Hungary is in the middle of this different rate. Okay, jump back a little bit. And the third form, it's a reciprocal forms. You know which is the reciprocal form? Reciprocal form. For Hungary, I don't know in in English, but in Hungary, this reciprocal form named a kalaka. It's a bee. It's translated kalaka. You know, it means, for example, there is a poor couple after the marriage. Somehow would like to build a building, but no money for professional worker. Therefore, the friends and relatives free help for young couple. Necessary to buy only the raw material, bricks and cement and other for the production. This is the reciprocal form. But if somebody would like to ask back the help, there is an obligation, help back. But somebody never, not so ambitious, it's not a fault. No moral or no any other sense. It's not a fault. Not a fault. It's a reciprocal form. But once in the history, identify, generally it's a low level, low social level construction. In the neighborhood or closest relatives using a reciprocal form. But once applied as a basic structure of empire, used a reciprocal form. It's happened in the construction of Inca Empire. Somebody visited in Peru, in Southern America? Little bit. Okay. Anyway, if you imagine this landscape, there are three types of landscape area. The coastal part with tropical climate. How the name is Piedmont area, it's more 100 meters. It's moderate climate, temperate climate. And Andes high mountain area. Each of district organized, then one part of each landscape and climate area contain each district. Therefore, one plot from coastal area, tropical coastal area, one plot from Piedmont area, and one plot from mountain area. Each of that, there were some economic specialization. For example, fishery, a tropical fishery in the coastal area and the tropical fruit production. The Piedmont area, a quinoa. You know which is the quinoa? It's a cereal. It's a local cereal. The quinoa and potato production, it's a Piedmont area. And the mountain area, it's animal husbandry of llama, vicuña, and alpaca. 3 domesticated animals. And if need, for example, animal meat or animal fur, other part of the district, organize the transport. For example, from mountain area to the tropical area. And if need, for example, salted and smoked fishes in the mountain area, organize, but never compare the value. This is the critical criteria or criterion of reciprocal form. Never compare the service, never. Only the driving force, the needs for some production. Okay, closed. Because the conceptualization of this topic, each of basic terms I try anyway define. Look at the story. Look at the case studies. Our story starts at the dawn of formation of European society. 2 maps about the cities and trade network of Europe. The first one on the 19th century, the second one on the 11th century. Which are the most interesting? If you know the concentration, how we can define the concentration of and the focus of the city network, we can identify on the case of 9th century, a little bit lighter, but in the 11th century, more clear, that 2 poles are according to city network in the European civilization. The first one in the northern poles, you can see the plots of city and the concentration of the cities, and the southern poles on the northern part of Italian peninsula. Why so interesting? Because if recently switch on your, for example, Google Maps, which are the most important concentration of urban area? The same. The same. It's a low country, historical low country, and the northern part of Italy. This is the meaning of history. The meaning of history, because the history, this is the memory. This is the memory of a local community or whole of the humankind. And increase the depth of the thinking. Therefore, very high the price of the cleaning of the memories, cleaning of the history. And for example, in the political life, there is a great fight for the memory of history. Because, a little bit, for example, I can demonstrate which is the meaning of the history. If you, for example, you take on the hand of shotgun, and change the back, and the direction of firing basically different. Therefore, very important, cleaning and make generation by generation a correction of the history and define and redefine a new generation to the past. It's a crucial, it's not a hobby. It's not a hobby and the hobby of the closed circle of the historian. It's very high, the importance of the history. Okay, look at the next one. Look first southern Poles. Because in the southern Poles, this is the area of Western Roman Empire, a lot of elements survived a Western Roman Empire. In the Mediterranean Sea had a great rivalry among three actors. The first one is a Byzantine Empire, focused to Constantinople. Somebody recently named Istanbul. Somebody visited in Istanbul? Istanbul? No? Visited? How long? 2 years.
12 times the last 2 years.
1 year?
In the last 2 years I've gone 12.
Yeah. You came from Turkey?
No, my mom lives there. I just...
Yeah, okay. But unbelievable city. And you?
I think twice.
Yeah. And you drove in Istanbul? My best experience. Because there are in Europe, there are two poles. For example, I lived 1.5 years in Switzerland. And Switzerland, each rules, everybody accepts. Everybody. Because there are a punishment, very clarified punishment system. If somebody fought and received, I remember, 16 points, lost the license, whole of the life. Therefore, for example, I walking on the pavement and I looking, for example, the building, and on the highway, the cars stop. Everybody walking, looking me. Which is my intention and ambition. Because if somebody, for example, driving very aggressively, lost 1 point. And when reach 16, lost license. Okay, this is the clean system. Everybody agree each rules. But the other pole is Istanbul. No rules. Break, bus, and crying. And I am not a Mediterranean type, but first time in my life, I enjoyed. I am crying whole of the day without real anger. It's a new experience. Each day, 4 days, I drove in Istanbul. Each evening, I was so relaxed. Crying. But in Europe, it's not possible because we are living in the Central Europe. In Central Europe, between Western and Eastern, everybody agree half of the rule, 50%. But nobody knows which half. Therefore, so dangerous driving on the Hungarian highways. Okay, Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire, on the time, it's one of the greatest empire of the contemporary world, but a continental-oriented empire. What mean? The budget of empire, 98%, almost whole of the budget, came from the taxes of peasants and the cities and any other. Therefore, not interesting for the trade. Because almost whole of the budget came from taxes, the system of the financial system. Muslim civilization, on the time, is the greatest high day. This is the Caliphates of Damascus, because the first generation was not Damascus, Baghdad, sorry. The first generation was the Caliphates of Damascus, the second one is Caliphates of Baghdad. It's greatest recovery, the heyday period, for example, on the time, Iberian Peninsula, on the 10th century, a little bit before, Iberian Peninsula, recent Spain and Portugal, according to contemporary sources, each male, 10th century, each male was able to read the Quran. On the community of male, no illiteracy. Look at the European culture. Was step closer to this level only in the 20th century, 1,000 years later. Therefore, if you can imagine the history, it's not a continuous evolution. Up, down, up, down, up, down. It's very important to mention because we are a modern people. And the modern people imagine, because this is our socialization, everybody should to be better. Next year, make better iPhone than before. And very important to realize, it's not true in the history. Up, down, up, down. Generation of my father and my grandfather participated in the First World War. My grandfather, my father in the Second World War. Unbelievable. It's possible if you participate in the first, but I hope we're able to evolve. Okay, Muslim civilization. It's a great heyday, great recovery, but the same case like in the Byzantine Empire, not interested for the transport. The most important and the most successful transport was a continental caravans. It's very important, the birth environment and the condition of the Muslim religion, a caravans. Mecca, Medina, and any other was a caravan city. Somebody know that in Hungary, it's possible, I mentioned before, in Hungary had a small village named Medina, like in the Arabian Peninsula. I spoke about, not? One of my geographer friends traveled to United States after the 9/11 and identified on the passport came from Medina. But in Hungary and Medina, not from Arabian Peninsula, but the border check, it was 10 hours long because the words are the same. But the location, it's located Tolna County, in southern part of the Trans-Danubian area. Turn back to story. Muslim civilization didn't interested for the maritime trade, only the continental trade, maritime trade. Therefore, Italian cities were the winner of the monopolization of Mediterranean trade. But why? Because a Mediterranean citizen lived from trade. 90% of the budget in Venice, in Genoa, in Amalfi came from maritime trade. Therefore, very, very strong and high the motivation. It's show not the general political and military power, the crucial element, but the motivation. The motivation and the basic orientation. The first city which specialized to the international maritime trade, it's a spice trade, basically, spice trade. You remember what means the spice trade, unbelievable high profit, but very critical trade because it's very dangerous for the pirates and for the criminals. Pepper, nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, cloves. As I mentioned, the pepper was the highest one. The second generation of the cities, Pisa, Genoa, and Venice, because Amalfi destroyed the two tsunami and 3 times visited Vikings. You know, it's not so polite immigrant on the time, and destroyed Amalfi. And after the rivals were Pisa, Genoa, and Venice on this trade. Okay, somebody visited in Italy. Okay. You know, a basic impression. I remember I visited first time in Florence, 1987. Unbelievable. Look at, for example, the built environment in Szeged, for example. Majority constructed at the turn of the 19th and the 20th century. In Italy, the new buildings built after Anno Domini, before Jesus, after Jesus. This is a new build construction. If somebody walking on the street, it's constructed in, for example, the Greek colonizer and other civilization before the Roman Empire. Unbelievable depth of the history. I remember when I traveled first time in Florence, I felt I am a German. A Teutonic, it's a traditional German. A Teutonic came from the woodland and not able to understand this level of civilization. A little bit I am in the same position because when I visited I worked in Switzerland at the Bern University. A lot of times I traveled in different conferences. And I don't know why, but each boundary identified from the face, from my behavior, I am not a part of the local population. Therefore, not so easy to assimilate a new area. Okay. Anyway, if we are looking at Italian cities, there were very important heritage from Roman Empire. After the collapse of Roman Empire, survived the routes, the highways of the empire, the built environment, the cities, and partly the population. High level of civilization, channels, for example, and the fresh water, and a lot of civilization, a lot of construction of the civilization. Therefore, in the Italian cities, the nobleman lived inside of the city. If we are looking at the continental Europe, the nobleman lived on the forts and the castles, very far from the cities and the villages. Why? Because the civilization level of continental cities much lower. In Italy, it's high civilization. You know the story of Romeo and Juliet. Two great noble family, Montagu and Capulet, lived inside of Verona. And the nobleman violence was inside of the city and killed each other on the street of Verona. This was the place, this was the situation in Italy. And this is the great building of Central Square of Florence. It's a tower constructed at Giotto. You know the Giotto? Giotto, it's very famous polymath of 14th century. On the time, nobody thought about Giotto and his fellows that artist. It was an artisan, much more artisan. Therefore, if somebody would like to win, for example, construction of church, or construction of the tower, necessary to make a plan and demonstrate this is my plan. And very interesting, Giotto, who original profession was a shepherd, a cattle shepherd, and for example walking around the cattle and drawing to the sand unbelievable pictures. And one senator of city council of Florence walking, okay, it's excellent, it's going to the school, the artistic school. And very interesting, the construction of this tower necessary to play a plan of construction. But Giotto, it was a typical artist or artisan of Renaissance, therefore draw so much on the time, it's a critical crisis period of him, no time for making a plan. And arrive to the final discussion of the commission, no plan. Therefore, wall to the wall and freehand draw how the name is, it's a correct circle, freehand. If you would like to similar like a Giotto, you can try. It's almost impossible. Freehand, correct circle drawing. And make a circle and receive rivalry and receive the law, construct this tower. I hope you remember, you understood, but a little bit confused it might be. Good. And which is the other consequence of noblemen living inside of the city. This is the city of San Gimignano. You can see here. San Gimignano. Somebody visited in San Gimignano, located central part of Italy. San Gimignano, it's a typical nobleman city, afraid from each other. Therefore, this is the city wall. It's quite a moderate. But this is the tower of local great nobleman family. Fear each other much more than enemy of the city. Therefore, constructed great towers inside of the city, saving the family, like a mafia logic a little bit in the 19th century. Okay, why so good if noblemen living inside of the city? Because the capital of the nobleman flowing in to the trade. In continental Europe, majority of noblemen never participate in the trade, never. But in Italy, even the noblemen used their great capital for increase the capacity of and the speed of and the volume of the trade. Okay, this is the network of the river trade, a place where Italian traders both great spice bags. It's Alexandria, northern part of Egypt, and Near East ports, Near East harbors, and transport spice bags to Venice, to Genoa, and to Pisa. And it's a great trade, but organized every day, not every day, how the name is, a high trade and a local trade. Not local trade in the classical sense, distribution trade. My guess, under the Venetian trader and the Italian trader, who distributed on Europe in smaller bags of spices? Who were the distributor?
The Levant is the one from Africa, no?
Yeah, Levant is eastern part of the Mediterranean Sea. It is a Levant. Neponte is a western part. But my question, Italian trader, Venetian, Genoese, and trader of Pisa transport from Alexandria and the ports of Near East in great bags a spice. Nutmeg, cinnamon, pepper, and any other. But some other nations, trader, distribute in Europe. And two nations specialized to distribution. Which European, not Hungarian? European. On the time lived in Europe.
Spain?
No?
Portugal?
No? A little bit later.
France.
No?
Netherlands.
German and Jews. Rivalry.
Wait, but the Jews were
Jews
in Europe.
in Europe.
Which nation?
Ashkenazi Jews. Because in the Jews there are two communities. There are Christian environment living Jews is Ashkenazi, it's different spelling. Other one, Muslim environment living Jews, because in consequent losing of great civil war in the first century, distributed diaspora lived in the Jews and distributed everywhere.
So
No,
the German Jewish,
no, German and the Jews.
but the European Jewish.
European Jews.
Quick question, trick question, because you said.
Yeah, but it's not so easy to find the nationality in the category of medieval terms. Anyway, why so important? Because if you would like to understand the conflict, European conflict, rivalry between German and Jews started
That's right.
in the 13th century.
That's right.
13th century. Therefore, before the Second World War, had 700 years bad experience from us to others. It's very important to understand. It's not the story of the 20th century. It started in the 13th century. Two networks developed, German network and the Jews network, and rivals to each other. Okay. Look at the next one. This is the spice trade, blue one, and the red one, this is the Great Silk Road. Okay, look at the other one. This is the Southern Pole, distributor trade, basically under control of Italian trader, and the distributor, German and Jews. Later we will return on the time of Venice. If we are looking at low countries, somebody visited in the Netherlands, Belgium. It's artificial country, because 1/3 of the area under the sea level. In the typical landscape picture, it's a great windmills, not for grinding of cereals. No, it's function of water pump day by day, pushing up the water back to the sea. The windmill, no for cereal grinding or for cereal production, making a grains. Okay, 20% of 20% under the Northern Sea. Organized water regulation since 10th century. Some years ago, I participated a conference. Somebody memorize your name? Sorry, memorize your name, somebody? Okay, thanks a lot. I participated one conference of water engineering in Gouda. You know the name of Gouda? Very famous cheese. It's hard cheese, Gouda. Gouda, it's possible. My spelling. I lived only half year in the Netherlands. Okay, Gouda. Anyway, I participated in this water engineering and discussed, because in consequence of global warming will rise up with 1 meter the global ocean, global water to the end of 21st century. And the engineers, no bothering. Okay, no problem. We will rise with 2 meters the dam. Started 1,000 years before. Okay, highly urbanized area, because able to solve the problem of the 80 to 20, because import huge quantity of grain, basically rye, from Baltic area. And industrialized agriculture. What means the industrialized agriculture? It means that local agriculture never specialized to the production of the staple foods. Wheat, or for example, or vegetables, no. But industrial raw material, hemp, for example, not an Indian hemp, it's another one, it's a modern innovation. For example, raw material for textile industry, for example, tulip bulbs, tulip bulbs. Somebody know which is the homeland of tulip? It's a flower. Mountain of Tian Shan, Central Asia. And normal condition, only 1 color of tulip. It's a red one, no more. But the great breeding is making a darker and darker. The best one never able to reach a black tulip. But if somebody able, for example, making a dark tulip, it's a no problem. No any problem for the rest part of the life. And the offsprings, next generation's life. And very interesting, it's a little bit jump on the history. I'm not sure that you know who are the first, according to budget, according to value, who is the first agrarian exporter of the world. First, United States. And which is the second one? Netherlands. which is the size of the Netherlands according to value, not the volume, value. Because the secret of the Dutch secret is the great added value. The great added value. For example, breeding of seeds, breeding of tulip, breeding of flower. Unbelievable. A small country, half of Hungary, the second agrarian producer of whole of the earth. Somebody memorize your name. Okay, thanks. Industrialized agriculture means even the peasant buying the staple foods on the market. Okay. These are, and moreover, the theme of contemporaries is the hard cheese, not dark, hard cheese. You know which is the normal size of the Dutch hard cheese? 2 meters, 2 meters. Why? Because it's optimization, because the outer part of the cheese it's drying. Therefore, minimize the losing with help of large size. Therefore, it's a more 100 kilograms cheese it's bringing on the cheese market. Okay. Okay. This unit expired, a little bit shorter one, but thanks a lot for your attention, and I ask your patience for some minutes.